At 22, Ethan stood outside a small duplex with trembling hands, holding the keys to his very first rental property. Friends called him reckless. Family worried he was making a huge mistake. But Ethan saw something others didn't: a single building that could completely change the direction of his future forever. The duplex wasn't beautiful. Cracked paint covered the walls, weeds filled the yard, and broken windows scared away buyers. Investors ignored it because of the work required. Ethan smiled instead. He believed ugly properties often hid the biggest opportunities. Sweat and patience could create value where others only saw problems. Buying the property wasn't easy. Ethan had worked 2 jobs since high school, skipped expensive vacations, drove an old car, and saved nearly every paycheck. While others spent money impressing friends, he quietly built a down payment. Years of sacrifice finally led him to closing day with nervous excitement. The first night after buying the duplex, Ethan couldn't sleep. Every strange sound made him wonder if he'd ruined his life. His mortgage payment felt enormous. He questioned every decision. Fear whispered constantly. Yet deep inside, another voice reminded him that growth always begins just beyond the comfort zone. The renovation started immediately. Ethan painted walls after work, replaced flooring during weekends, and watched countless repair tutorials online. His hands blistered, his muscles ached, and mistakes cost money. Still, every completed project increased the property's value. Each improvement became another lesson in building wealth through consistent effort and persistence. Finding tenants proved harder than expected. Some applicants had poor rental histories. Others couldn't afford the rent. Ethan learned to screen carefully instead of rushing. Eventually, he welcomed reliable tenants who appreciated the renovated home. Their monthly payments covered the mortgage and even left him with a small positive cash flow. Receiving that first rental payment felt different from earning wages. Ethan realized his money was finally working alongside him instead of depending entirely on his hours. The experience changed his mindset forever. He stopped thinking like an employee alone and began thinking like an investor, building long-term financial independence. Instead of celebrating with luxury purchases, Ethan saved every dollar of cash flow. Friends questioned why he lived so modestly despite owning property. He simply smiled. They saw delayed gratification as sacrifice. Ethan saw it as planting seeds. Bigger rewards would come later if he remained patient and disciplined. Months passed, and property values in the neighborhood slowly increased. The renovations attracted compliments from neighbors and higher quality tenants. Equity quietly grew without dramatic headlines. Ethan discovered that wealth often builds silently, one payment, one improvement, and one smart decision at a time, away from public attention. 1 year after purchasing his first rental, Ethan reviewed his finances. The duplex had generated income, appreciated in value, and boosted his confidence. Instead of wondering whether investing worked, he asked a new question: how can I buy my second property? That single question would transform his entire future. Ethan visited a local bank, carrying organized financial records from his first rental. The loan officer noticed steady rental income, responsible payment history, and growing equity. What once looked like a risky experiment now appeared as proof of financial discipline. Doors that were previously closed slowly began opening. His second property wasn't larger or prettier. It was another overlooked home needing repairs and vision. Most buyers searched for perfection, but Ethan searched for potential. He understood that value wasn't always visible at first glance. Opportunity often wore work clothes and demanded patience before revealing its true worth. Managing 2 rentals introduced unexpected challenges. One tenant called about a leaking pipe before sunrise. Another reported a broken heater late at night. Ethan learned that real estate wasn't passive in the beginning. Success required responsiveness, responsibility, and the willingness to solve problems without making excuses or complaining. Instead of hiring expensive contractors for every repair, Ethan invested in learning practical skills. Plumbing basics, electrical safety, painting techniques, and flooring installation became valuable knowledge. Every new ability reduced future expenses. More importantly, each lesson increased his confidence, transforming obstacles into manageable tasks instead of overwhelming emergencies. Some months were profitable, others were frustrating. Vacancies, repairs, and unexpected maintenance sometimes consumed every dollar of rental income. During difficult seasons, Ethan reminded himself that successful investing wasn't measured by individual months, but by consistent progress over many years of disciplined ownership and careful decision-making. While scrolling through social media, Ethan watched friends showcase luxury vacations, designer clothes, and brand new cars. For a brief moment, he wondered if he was missing out. Then he looked at his growing portfolio. He wasn't buying temporary status. He was quietly purchasing lasting financial freedom, one property at a time. At 24, Ethan owned 4 rental properties. People suddenly called him lucky, ignoring the countless evenings spent renovating instead of relaxing. They admired the results, but rarely acknowledged the sacrifices behind them. Ethan understood that what many people label as luck is often years of invisible consistency and relentless effort. As his experience grew, Ethan began networking with other real estate investors. They shared financing strategies, renovation tips, and lessons learned from costly mistakes. Instead of competing, they exchanged knowledge freely. Ethan discovered that surrounding himself with ambitious, experienced people accelerated his growth far faster than working completely alone. One mentor offered advice Ethan never forgot. Your first property changes your income. Your systems build your empire. Those words reshaped everything. Ethan created detailed checklists, maintenance schedules, financial tracking spreadsheets, and tenant procedures. Organization transformed his growing collection of rentals into a scalable business rather than a stressful hobby. By age 25, Ethan owned 7 rental properties producing reliable monthly income. The number impressed outsiders, but Ethan remained focused on the process instead of milestones. He knew success wasn't about collecting houses. It was about building sustainable wealth that could provide opportunities, security, and freedom for decades to come. At 26, Ethan faced his biggest setback yet. A severe storm damaged 2 rental properties in the same week. Roof repairs, water damage, and insurance paperwork consumed his time. Instead of panicking, he relied on emergency savings. Preparation turned what could have been disaster into another valuable business lesson. A vacant property remained empty for nearly 3 months. Bills continued arriving while rental income stopped. Ethan resisted lowering his standards for tenants. He believed that one responsible renter was worth waiting for. Eventually, the right family moved in, proving that patience often prevents far greater problems later. Every month, Ethan reviewed every dollar entering and leaving his business. He tracked repairs, taxes, insurance, vacancies, and profits with precision. Numbers told stories that emotions could not. Careful bookkeeping revealed where money disappeared and where opportunities existed to improve efficiency and increase long-term profitability. As his portfolio expanded, Ethan hired a trusted handyman for routine maintenance. Delegating small tasks freed valuable hours for finding new investments. He realized that doing everything himself limited growth. Building a dependable team allowed him to focus on decisions that created the greatest long-term value. Not every deal deserved a yes. Ethan walked away from several properties that looked attractive but carried hidden financial risks. Friends questioned why he rejected profitable-looking opportunities. Experience had taught him that avoiding bad investments was just as important as finding good ones. Discipline protected both capital and confidence. At 27, Ethan purchased his 10th rental property. Reaching double digits felt surreal. Years earlier, one duplex had seemed overwhelming. Now, managing multiple properties had become routine through systems, planning, and experience. Growth hadn't happened overnight. It came from repeating simple habits consistently until extraordinary results naturally followed. Ethan noticed another important change. Rental income now covered his basic living expenses. His paycheck from work became optional rather than essential. For the first time, he experienced genuine financial flexibility. Freedom wasn't about quitting immediately. It was about having choices that money alone had never provided before. Curious friends finally began asking for advice. They expected secret investment tricks or magical shortcuts. Ethan disappointed them with a simple answer: save consistently, buy carefully, manage responsibly, and think long-term. Wealth wasn't built through excitement. It was built through discipline repeated thousands of ordinary times. As competition increased, Ethan focused on improving tenant experiences. Clean properties, fast maintenance responses, fair communication, and respect created long-term relationships. Happy tenants stayed longer, reducing costly vacancies. He learned that treating people well wasn't just good ethics. It was also smart business that strengthened every investment. Standing in front of his 10th property, Ethan reflected on the nervous 22-year-old who once doubted himself outside a neglected duplex. Fear had never completely disappeared, but action always moved him forward. One property had become 10, and the journey towards something even greater had only just begun. At 28, Ethan realized the business had outgrown his notebook. He adopted professional software to track rent, maintenance, leases, and expenses. Better organization reduced mistakes and saved hours each week. Strong systems didn't just simplify operations, they created the foundation for scaling far beyond 10 properties with confidence. The housing market shifted unexpectedly. Prices climbed rapidly, making good deals harder to find. Many investors rushed into overpriced purchases, fearing they would miss out. Ethan remained patient. He knew discipline mattered more than speed. Waiting for the right opportunity often produced better returns than chasing every trend. A seasoned investor invited Ethan to tour several apartment buildings. The experience changed his perspective forever. Instead of thinking one house at a time, he began evaluating entire portfolios. Bigger properties required bigger responsibilities, but they also offered greater efficiency, stronger cash flow, and faster long-term growth. To prepare for larger investments, Ethan spent evenings studying financing, negotiations, and commercial real estate. He attended seminars, read books, and asked experienced investors difficult questions. Every lesson expanded his confidence. Education became one of his highest return investments, costing little compared to the opportunities it eventually unlocked. Ethan purchased his first small apartment building with 4 units. The transaction felt intimidating, but his years managing single-family rentals prepared him well. Instead of one tenant, he now served several families. The workload increased, yet so did the income, proving that calculated growth creates meaningful momentum. Success attracted attention. Local investors began recognizing Ethan at networking events and asking about his journey. He openly shared both victories and mistakes. Rather than pretending everything had gone perfectly, he explained the failures that shaped him. Authenticity earned more respect than exaggerated stories of effortless success ever could. One evening, Ethan revisited the neighborhood where his first duplex stood. Fresh paint decorated nearby homes, children played outside, and local businesses flourished. His investment had grown alongside the community. He realized real estate wasn't only about buildings, It was about improving places where people built their lives. As profits increased, Ethan diversified carefully. He maintained cash reserves, reduced unnecessary debt, and avoided overextending himself. Many investors expanded aggressively during good times, only to struggle later. Ethan preferred steady, sustainable growth. Protecting the business during uncertainty mattered more than chasing rapid expansion for temporary recognition. By age 30, Ethan owned 20 rental properties. The milestone wasn't celebrated with luxury purchases or extravagant parties. Instead, he quietly reviewed his goals and planned the next decade. Progress had become a habit rather than an event. Every achievement simply marked the starting point for another challenge. Looking across his growing portfolio, Ethan smiled at the memories hidden inside every property. Each represented a lesson, a risk, a difficult decision, and a moment when quitting seemed easier than continuing. Together, those ordinary moments had built something extraordinary, and his journey toward 50 properties was only halfway complete. At 31, Ethan noticed a powerful shift. New opportunities found him instead of the other way around. Real estate agents called with off-market deals. Bankers introduced financing options. Investors requested partnerships. Years of honesty, reliability, and consistent execution had quietly built a reputation that opened valuable doors. One elderly landlord decided to retire after decades of ownership. Instead of listing every property publicly, he approached Ethan first. He wanted someone who would care for both the buildings and the tenants. Reputation, Ethan realized, could become more valuable than money when earning opportunities others never even saw. Purchasing multiple properties at once tested Ethan's confidence. The numbers were larger, negotiations more complex, and responsibilities greater than ever before. He relied on careful research rather than emotion. Breaking overwhelming challenges into manageable steps allowed him to move forward without becoming paralyzed by fear or uncertainty. As his portfolio expanded beyond 25 properties, Ethan built a dependable team. A property manager handled daily tenant concerns, an accountant managed financial records, and trusted contractors completed repairs efficiently. Delegating responsibilities didn't reduce control. It strengthened the business by allowing experts to excel in their respective roles. One difficult tenant stopped paying rent and refused communication. Legal procedures were slow, stressful, and emotionally draining. Ethan remained professional throughout the process, following the law carefully. The experience reinforced an important lesson. Clear screening standards and written procedures protect both landlords and responsible tenants from future complications. During an economic slowdown, many investors panicked and sold valuable properties below market value. Ethan remained calm because he had prepared for difficult times. Strong cash reserves and conservative financing allowed him to purchase quality assets while others retreated. Patience during prosperity rewarded him with confidence during uncertainty. By 32, Ethan reached 30 rental properties. The number amazed people who remembered his first duplex, yet his daily routine looked surprisingly ordinary. Morning financial reviews, property visits, team meetings, and continuous learning replaced dramatic celebrations. Extraordinary success, he discovered, often grows from remarkably ordinary habits repeated consistently. A young college student approached Ethan after a local investment seminar. Nervously, he asked whether buying one rental property could truly change someone's future. Ethan smiled, remembering his own doubts years earlier. He answered, "One property won't change everything overnight, but it can change the direction of your life." Ethan began mentoring aspiring investors, emphasizing ethics alongside profits. He encouraged them to provide safe housing, treat tenants with respect, and honor every commitment. Building wealth and building trust were never opposing goals. Businesses that served people well created stronger communities while producing sustainable financial success over the long run. Standing before 30 successful rental properties, Ethan reflected on a decade of growth. Every setback had strengthened his judgment. Every sacrifice had purchased opportunity. The dream that once seemed impossible was becoming reality. With renewed determination, he set his sights on the next milestone: 50 properties and lasting financial freedom. At 33, Ethan stopped measuring success by the number of properties alone. Instead, he focused on the quality of each investment. Strong cash flow, responsible tenants, and well-maintained buildings mattered more than impressive totals. Sustainable growth would always outperform reckless expansion driven purely by ego. One neglected apartment complex caught Ethan's attention. Most investors dismissed it because of deferred maintenance and poor management. Ethan saw hidden potential. With careful budgeting and a clear renovation plan, he transformed the property into a safe, attractive community where occupancy quickly climbed and income steadily increased. Renovations became more strategic than physical. Instead of swinging hammers himself, Ethan coordinated contractors, monitored budgets, and ensured every improvement delivered measurable value. His role had evolved from worker to leader. The greatest return now came from making wise decisions rather than performing every task personally. The business continued growing because Ethan reinvested profits instead of spending them on luxury. Every dollar earned became another tool for acquiring future assets. Compound growth quietly accelerated. Small gains multiplied year after year, proving that patience and consistency often create results that seem impossible to outsiders. A national real estate conference invited Ethan to speak about his journey. Standing before hundreds of aspiring investors, he shared not only achievements, but failures. He explained that confidence isn't the absence of fear. It grows from repeatedly taking responsible action despite uncertainty and learning from every experience. Unexpected repairs still happened. Furnaces failed during winter, plumbing leaked without warning, and roofs aged faster than expected. Ethan no longer viewed maintenance as frustrating expenses. They were simply part of owning valuable assets. Accepting reality instead of resisting it made every challenge easier to manage calmly. By now, Ethan owned 38 properties spread across several neighborhoods. Diversification reduced risk and created stability. If one market slowed temporarily, others remained strong. Careful planning protected the business from depending too heavily on any single location, tenant, or economic condition. Looking through old journals, Ethan found notes from age 22. They were filled with doubts, fears, and questions about whether buying the first duplex had been foolish. Reading them made him smile. The greatest transformation hadn't been financial. It had been becoming someone capable of overcoming uncertainty consistently. At every closing, Ethan remembered his original promise: never let success replace humility. He thanked sellers, respected tenants, appreciated his team, and acknowledged mentors who had guided him. Gratitude kept him grounded. No matter how large the portfolio became, relationships remained his most valuable long-term investment. Crossing 40 properties felt less like reaching a finish line and more like entering a new chapter. Ethan understood that true wealth wasn't just measured by buildings owned, it was measured by choices gained, lives improved, and opportunities created. With 40 properties secured, the final stretch toward 50 had begun. At 34, Ethan noticed something remarkable. His portfolio generated opportunities for others as well. Contractors received steady work, local suppliers gained loyal customers, and families found reliable homes. Wealth, when managed responsibly, created a ripple effect. His business no longer benefited only himself. It strengthened the surrounding community every day. A longtime tenant thanked Ethan for maintaining safe, clean housing, and responding quickly whenever problems arose. The conversation reminded him why he entered real estate. Buildings were investments, but homes were deeply personal. Treating tenants with dignity wasn't just good business. It reflected the values that guided every decision. Competition intensified as more investors entered the market. Instead of joining bidding wars fueled by emotion, Ethan remained disciplined. He analyzed every deal carefully and accepted that missing one opportunity was better than overpaying. Patience protected his portfolio, while others accepted unnecessary risks, chasing rapid growth and recognition. One promising property failed inspection because of major structural issues. Walking away meant losing weeks of effort and significant money spent on due diligence. Ethan accepted the loss without regret. Experience had taught him that avoiding expensive mistakes often creates greater wealth than completing every possible purchase. Technology became another competitive advantage. Ethan automated rent collection, maintenance requests, financial reporting, and lease renewals. Efficient systems reduced errors while improving tenant satisfaction. Instead of drowning in paperwork, he focused on strategy, acquisitions, and strengthening relationships that supported long-term expansion across his growing real estate portfolio. A younger investor proudly announced buying luxury cars after closing several profitable deals. Ethan congratulated him sincerely, but quietly drove home in his dependable vehicle. Appearances never motivated him. Every unnecessary expense delayed another investment. His greatest status symbol remained ownership of income-producing assets rather than expensive possessions. Years of consistent investing finally created remarkable momentum. Equity increased, loans were paid down, and rental income continued growing. New acquisitions became easier because previous investments supported future ones. Ethan witnessed the true power of compounding. Progress that seemed slow initially eventually accelerated beyond anything he had imagined. Standing outside property number 45, Ethan reflected on the road behind him. Every obstacle that once felt overwhelming had eventually become another story, another lesson, another stepping stone. Success hadn't erased hardship. It had transformed hardship into experience, making each future challenge less intimidating than the last. The search for property number 50 carried special meaning. Ethan refused to rush simply to reach a milestone. He wanted the investment to represent everything he had learned: disciplined analysis, fair negotiation, solid cash flow, and long-term value. Milestones mattered most when achieved without compromising important principles. As negotiations for his 50th property began, Ethan felt the same excitement and nervousness he experienced at 22. The numbers were larger, but the emotions were familiar. Growth had never eliminated uncertainty. It had simply taught him that courage means moving forward thoughtfully, even when the outcome remains unknown. The negotiations stretched across several weeks. Inspections uncovered repairs, financing required adjustments, and unexpected paperwork delayed closing. Years earlier, these setbacks would have shaken Ethan's confidence. Now, he stayed patient. Experience had taught him that successful deals reward calm decision-making, not rushed emotions or unnecessary pressure. Closing day finally arrived. As Ethan signed the final document, he paused before accepting the keys. Property number 50 represented far more than another investment. It symbolized 12 years of persistence, disciplined choices, continuous learning, and unwavering belief that small, consistent actions could create extraordinary long-term results. Leaving the closing office, Ethan drove directly to his very first duplex. The building looked completely different now: fresh landscaping, modern paint, and happy tenants enjoying the front yard. He smiled, remembering the nervous young man who had once stood there wondering whether buying one property had been a terrible mistake. News of Ethan's achievement spread through local investment circles. Many celebrated the milestone, but some asked only one question: "How did you get rich?" Ethan gently corrected them. He hadn't become wealthy from one lucky deal. He had become wealthy by making hundreds of disciplined decisions over many years. Looking across his 50 properties, Ethan realized each one represented more than bricks and concrete. Every building held families celebrating birthdays, children growing up, and individuals building better futures. His investments generated income, but they also provided safe places where countless life stories continued unfolding every single day. During a mentorship session, someone asked Ethan what he would change if he could start again at 22. He smiled before answering, "I'd stop doubting myself so much. The biggest obstacle was never money or opportunity. It was believing I wasn't ready before taking the first step." Ethan's financial freedom allowed him to spend more time with family, travel without financial stress, support local charities, and mentor aspiring investors. Money hadn't solved every problem. It had simply given him greater control over how he spent his time, energy, and attention, the resources he valued most. One quiet evening, Ethan opened the journal from his first year as a landlord. The pages contained worries about repairs, mortgages, vacancies, and failure. Reading those entries reminded him how far he'd come. Confidence hadn't appeared overnight. It had been built through action, mistake by mistake, decision by decision. Standing on the balcony of his 50th property, Ethan watched the sunset and reflected on the journey. Success hadn't arrived because life was easy. It arrived because he kept moving forward when progress felt slow. Fear felt loud, and quitting seemed tempting. Persistence had quietly accomplished what talent alone never could. Ethan's story ended where another person's journey could begin. A single rental property purchased at 22 eventually became 50 through patience, discipline, integrity, and relentless consistency. His greatest lesson was simple: extraordinary achievements rarely begin with extraordinary circumstances. They begin with one courageous decision to start. Years after reaching 50 properties, Ethan was often asked whether success had changed him. He answered with a smile, "Success didn't change me. It revealed the habits I practiced every day." His routine remained simple: learn constantly, serve people well, protect investments, and never stop improving one small step at a time. At a local college, Ethan spoke to students dreaming of financial freedom. Instead of showing luxury photos, he displayed pictures of peeling paint, broken roofs, and worn-out kitchens. Those unattractive beginnings reminded everyone that remarkable success often starts with ordinary opportunities hidden beneath hard work and persistence. A young couple approached Ethan after the presentation. They had saved enough for a small down payment, but feared making the wrong decision. Ethan encouraged them to study carefully, buy responsibly, and think long-term. Perfect timing rarely exists. Preparation and disciplined action matter far more than waiting forever. Looking back, Ethan realized every major breakthrough had followed a difficult season. The challenges that once felt unbearable had forced him to grow stronger, wiser, and more patient. Without those obstacles, he might never have developed the judgment required to responsibly manage a portfolio of 50 successful rental properties. Many people believed Ethan possessed extraordinary talent. He quietly disagreed. He had simply refused to quit after setbacks. Every repair completed, every lesson learned, every dollar saved, and every careful decision accumulated over time. Consistency, not brilliance, became the invisible force behind his extraordinary achievements and lasting success. One afternoon, Ethan walked through neighborhoods where he owned several rentals. Families greeted him warmly, children played safely outside, and well-maintained homes reflected years of care. He felt proud knowing his investments produced more than income. They contributed to stronger communities where people could build stable, hopeful futures together. During a quiet evening, Ethan wrote one sentence on a blank page: "Your future is created by the choices you repeat." He framed the note above his desk as a daily reminder. Success was never determined by one extraordinary moment. It was shaped by ordinary decisions made consistently over time. As retirement approached, Ethan no longer chased bigger numbers. His focus shifted toward preserving what he had built and helping others succeed. Teaching became as rewarding as investing. Watching new investors purchase their first properties reminded him of the excitement, uncertainty, and hope that began his own remarkable journey. One of Ethan's former students proudly called with exciting news. She had just purchased her first rental property at 22. Hearing those words brought Ethan full circle. His greatest legacy wasn't 50 properties. It was inspiring someone else to believe that one courageous decision could transform an entire lifetime. Ethan looked across his portfolio one final time, grateful for every success, every setback, and every lesson. 50 properties represented years of patience, discipline, and resilience. But the true reward was discovering that lasting wealth is built slowly, intentionally, and with unwavering commitment to continuous growth. The reporter asked Ethan to summarize his journey in one sentence. He paused thoughtfully before answering. "I didn't build 50 properties. I built the habits that eventually built 50 properties." The audience nodded, realizing success wasn't hidden inside secrets. It lived inside daily discipline repeated faithfully over many years. Ethan often reflected on the countless crossroads where quitting would have been easier. Failed inspections, costly repairs, vacancies, difficult tenants, and economic uncertainty had all tested his resolve. Looking back, he understood that perseverance isn't dramatic. It's simply choosing to continue when stopping seems completely reasonable. His original duplex remained the most meaningful property in the entire portfolio. Financially, it was no longer the largest or most profitable. Emotionally, it represented courage. Every new investor who visited heard the same message. Never forget where your journey began, because that's where your confidence was born. When asked about the secret to financial freedom, Ethan avoided complicated formulas. Spend less than you earn, save consistently, buy wisely, improve continuously, stay patient. The advice sounded almost too simple, yet those ordinary principles, followed consistently, had transformed an uncertain 22-year-old into a respected real estate investor. One evening, Ethan unlocked the door of his first rental for the final inspection after years of ownership. Sunlight streamed through renovated windows, fresh paint-covered walls he had once repaired himself. Standing silently inside, he realized dreams rarely arrive fully built. They grow through persistent effort and unwavering belief. Before leaving, Ethan placed the original house key inside a small wooden frame beneath a handwritten note. "Everything starts with one door." The keepsake reminded him that every extraordinary journey begins with one ordinary opportunity accepted before certainty ever arrives or success becomes visible to anyone else. Years later, aspiring investors continued sharing Ethan's story. They weren't inspired because he owned 50 properties. They were inspired because he began with one modest duplex, limited resources, and plenty of fear. His example proved that humble beginnings never determine extraordinary endings. Consistent action does. The neighborhoods where Ethan invested continued improving as responsible ownership attracted stronger communities and local businesses. His legacy extended beyond financial statements. Every renovated property represented renewed hope, stability, and opportunity. Real estate had become more than an investment strategy. It had become a meaningful way to create lasting positive impact. As the sun set over another peaceful evening, Ethan smiled with quiet satisfaction. The journey had never been about becoming the richest investor in town. It had always been about creating freedom, serving others responsibly, and proving that ordinary people can achieve extraordinary goals through patience and consistent action. He bought his first rental property at 22. Years later, he owned 50. The difference wasn't luck. It was thousands of disciplined decisions made one day at a time. Your first step today could change your life tomorrow.